The voice that shattered silence, Captain Marcus Kane, had been drifting through the Kepler Nebula for 3 months when his ship's sensors picked up the impossible signal. The USS Defiance, a deep space exploration vessel, had been searching for rare minerals when the transmission cut through the cosmic static like a blade through silk. The bridge fell silent as the alien voice filled the air. It spoke in perfect English, though with an accent that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the stars themselves. "Human vessel, please respond. I have been waiting so long to hear your voice." Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from her communications console, her face pale. "Captain, that transmission is coming from inside the nebula, but our scans show nothing there except gas clouds and radiation." Marcus gripped his command chair. In his 15 years of space exploration, he had never encountered intelligent alien life. The government had prepared them for this possibility, but hearing it happen was something entirely different. "Open a channel," he ordered, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "This is Captain Marcus Kane of the Terran Exploration Fleet. Who am I speaking with?" A pause. Then, impossibly, the sound of tears. "My name is Zara Lynn of the Sindari Empire. I am the last of my kind, and your voice, it carries the resonance we have searched for across 1,000 worlds." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a figure that took Marcus's breath away. She stood 8 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer like starlight and eyes that held the depth of nebulae. Her features were elegant, almost ethereal, but there was something unmistakably human in her expression of hope and desperation. "How? Do you speak our language?" Marcus asked. Zara Lynn's image wavered slightly, as if she were fighting to maintain the connection. "We have been monitoring your species for centuries, your broadcasts, your art, your music. We learned your tongues because we knew one day we would need to find you." "Find us for what?" "To save both our peoples from extinction." Her voice carried a weight that made the entire bridge crew lean forward. "The Karathi swarm is coming. They have already consumed 17 civilizations, including most of mine. But your species? You have something they cannot defeat." Engineer Daniels spoke up from his station. "What could we possibly have that an advanced alien race needs?" Zara Lynn's eyes locked onto the view screen, as if she could see directly into Marcus's soul. "You have the one thing that has always made humans unstoppable. You refuse to surrender, even when surrender is the only logical choice. You fight impossible odds and somehow find a way to win." The captain felt a chill run down his spine. "You're asking us to go to war." "I am asking you to become what you were always meant to be," she replied, "the protectors of all free life in this galaxy. The fleet that refused to die." 3 weeks. After first contact, the emergency session of the United Earth Council had transformed into something no one expected. What began as a debate about diplomatic protocols had become humanity's first war council. Marcus stood before the assembled delegates, his dress uniform crisp despite the weight of what he carried. "The Sindari have shared their star charts with us," he reported, gesturing to the holographic display that showed the galaxy in terrifying detail. Red zones marked the territories consumed by the Karathi swarm. "At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach our outer colonies in 18 months, President Harrison leaned forward in her chair. "Captain Kane, you're asking us to commit our entire fleet to a war against an enemy we've never seen, based on the word of aliens we just met. With respect, Madam President, I'm asking us to survive." Marcus touched a control, and the display zoomed in on Earth. "The Karathi don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume everything biological and leave dead worlds behind." The Chinese representative stood up. "Even if we accept this threat is real, what can we do? Our combined fleet's number, barely 3,000 ships. According to these reports, the Karathi have consumed entire star systems." That's when Zara Lynn materialized in the chamber, her holographic form shimmering but solid enough to command attention. Several delegates gasped, but she ignored their shock. "You think in terms of ships and weapons," she said, her voice carrying that strange accent that seemed to resonate in everyone's bones. "But that is not where human strength lies." General Patterson, head of Solar Defense Command, scoffed. "Then, where does it lie? We're outgunned, outnumbered, and outclassed." Zaralyn turned to face him directly. "Tell me, General, how many times in your history has a smaller force defeated a larger one through tactics and determination?" "That's different. Those were human conflicts." "No," she said softly. "Those were impossible odds, overcome by beings who refused to accept impossibility." She gestured, and the display changed to show battle formations. "The Korathi are like a swarm of insects, individually weak, collectively overwhelming, but they have never faced an enemy that thinks like humans think." Marcus stepped forward. "She's right. I've been studying their attack patterns. They rely on overwhelming force and predictable strategies. But humans, we specialize in the unpredictable." President Harrison studied the star charts. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A volunteer fleet," Marcus said. "Every nation contributes what they can, but no one is forced to participate. We take our fastest ships, our best crews, and we hit them where they don't expect it." "A suicide mission," muttered the German delegate. "A chance," corrected Zaralyn. "The first real chance anyone has had against the swarm." The debate continued for hours, but Marcus could see the shift happening. Humanity had always been at its best when facing extinction. Within 48 hours, the vote was unanimous. The Terran Defense Initiative was born, and with it, humanity's first step toward becoming a galactic power. As the delegates filed out, Zaralyn approached Marcus. "You know this will change everything," she said quietly. "Win or lose, humanity will never be the same." Marcus nodded, looking out at the stars through the chamber's massive windows. "Maybe it's time we weren't." When Earth's children learned to hunt, Admiral Jake Thompson had commanded orbital defense platforms for most of his career, but nothing had prepared him for this. The hastily assembled Terran fleet hung in space beyond Neptune like a collection of mismatched toys. Cargo haulers retrofitted with weapons, luxury liners converted to troop transports, and mining ships that now carried enough firepower to level cities. "It's not much to look at," admitted Commander Lisa Park, his second-in-command. She was right. The 200 ships of the 1st Terran Expeditionary Force looked like exactly what they were. A desperate gamble thrown together with spare parts, and pure stubbornness. "The Korathi won't expect it," Jake replied, studying the tactical displays. "That's our advantage." Zaralyn's voice came through the comm system from her position aboard the flagship. "Admiral, my people's remaining ships are ready to guide you to the first target. But I must warn you again. The swarm has never been defeated in open battle." Jake smiled grimly. "Then it's a good thing we're not planning an open battle. The target was a mining world called Zerion Prime, recently consumed by the Korathi. Intelligence suggested it was being used as a staging area for their next expansion. More importantly, it was isolated enough that failure wouldn't immediately bring the entire swarm down on Earth. As the fleet entered hyperspace, Jake found himself thinking about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 12, but she'd insisted on watching the fleet departure. Her last words to him had been simple. "Make them sorry they messed with us, Dad." The journey took 6 days. When they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zerion system, the sight that greeted them was worse than anyone had imagined. The planet's surface was covered in a writhing mass of dark structures that pulsed like a living organism. Korathi, ships moved between them in lazy patterns, clearly not expecting any resistance. "Jesus," whispered Lieutenant Commander Hayes from the sensor station. "There must be thousands of them." "Good," Jake said, surprising everyone on the bridge. The more there are, the bigger the boom. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson. You all volunteered for this mission knowing the odds. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth's children. Execute Operation Sledgehammer. The plan was simple, born from humanity's greatest military tradition. When facing impossible odds, cheat. The fleet split into 3 groups. The main force, led by Jake's flagship, charged directly at the planet in what appeared to be a suicidal frontal assault. The Karathi response was immediate and predictable, with hundreds of their ships moving to intercept. But the real attack came from the flanks. 2 groups of modified cargo ships, their holds filled with nuclear warheads instead of trade goods, slipped past the distracted Karathi fleet and dove toward the planet's surface. Their captains were volunteers, men and women who had accepted they weren't coming home. The first explosions lit up the planet's night side like a new sun. Then the second wave hit, and the third. The carefully constructed Karathi infrastructure began to collapse, taking thousands of their ships with it as the chain reaction spread. All ships withdraw, Jake ordered as Karathi reinforcements began arriving from deeper in the system. The fleet turned and ran, but they had accomplished something no one thought possible. They had made the Karathi bleed. The empire that fear built. The news of humanity's first victory spread through the galaxy faster than any hyperspace transmission. In the depths of the Andorian cluster, species that had hidden from the Karathi for centuries began to whisper about the impossible. On the rim worlds of the Vegan territory, resistance movements started using a new symbol, the blue and green circle of Earth. Captain Elena Voss received the intelligence report while her task force was raiding Karathi supply lines near the Crimson Nebula. Her ship, the UES Retribution, had been built from the keel up for this war, incorporating alien technology that Zaralin's people had shared. It was faster than anything humanity had ever built, and deadlier than anything the Karathi had ever faced. "Ma'am," reported her intelligence officer, "we're getting confirmation from 17 different systems. Alien species are reaching out to us, offering support." Elena looked up from her tactical display. "What kind of support?" "Ships, technology, safe harbors. The Altarians are offering their entire merchant fleet. The Centauri Trade Consortium wants to provide weapons. Even the Isolationist League is opening communications." For the first time in months, Elena smiled. Fear is contagious, but so is hope. The transformation had been remarkable. In just 8 months, humanity had gone. From a single planet species to the center of the largest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. The Terran Empire, as the propaganda broadcasts now called it, controlled over 40 star systems and commanded a fleet of nearly 10,000 ships. But Elena knew the truth that the politicians back on Earth didn't want to admit. They weren't winning the war. They were just losing more slowly. For every Karathi world they hit, 3 more fell to the swarm. The enemy was learning, adapting, becoming more dangerous with each encounter. "Captain," called her navigation officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Thompson." Jake's face appeared on the main screen, looking older than Elena remembered. "Elena, we need to talk. Privately." 20 minutes later, they were alone in her ready room. Jake's expression was grim. "The Karathi are massing for a major offensive. Our scouts report a fleet of over 50,000 ships gathering in the Orion sector." Elena felt her blood chill. "Target? Earth." The words hung in the air between them, like a death sentence. Elena had seen what the Karathi did to inhabited worlds. The thought of that happening to humanity's home was unthinkable. "How long do we have?" she asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if we're lucky." Jake leaned forward. "But I have an idea. It's insane. It's probably impossible. And it will definitely get us all killed." Elena laughed despite herself. "Sounds like a typical human plan. What do you need? I need you to gather every ship we can spare and meet me at the Veil Nebula. We're going to do something that's never been done before. Which is? Jake's smile was predatory. We're going to hunt the hunters. The Karathi have a homeworld, Elena, a place they all come from, and we're going to turn it into their grave. As Elena watched the stars through her viewport, she realized this was the moment that would define not just the war, but humanity's place in the galaxy. They were no longer the desperate defenders they had been a year ago. They had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. They had become an empire forged in the fires of necessity and tempered by the will to survive at any cost. The day the galaxy changed forever. The attack on the Karathi homeworld would later be called the most audacious military operation in galactic history. Admiral Jake Thompson stood on the bridge of the UES Devastator, humanity's first true battleship, watching as nearly 15,000 Allied vessels assembled in the Veil Nebula. Ships from 47 different species had answered the call, creating the largest fleet ever assembled. Zara Lynn materialized beside him, her holographic form, more solid now thanks to new human technology. The Karathi will never expect this, she said. In all their history, no one has ever struck at their core world. That's because no one else was crazy enough to try, Jake replied. But humans specialize in crazy. The plan was typically human in its simplicity and audacity. While the main Karathi fleet was en route to Earth, expecting to find humanity cowering behind their defenses, the Allied fleet would strike at the heart of their empire. It was a gamble that would either end the war or doom both species to extinction. Captain Elena Voss approached from the tactical station. Sir, all ships report ready. The strike teams are in position. Jake nodded. The strike teams were humanity's newest innovation, small, fast ships crewed entirely by volunteers, each carrying enough antimatter to crack a moon. They had one job: get past the defenses and detonate at the planet's core. Open a channel to all ships, Jake ordered. When the light indicated he was broadcasting to the entire fleet. He spoke the words that would echo through history. Today we do more than defend our homes. Today we show the galaxy that some things are worth dying for. All ships, attack! The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Karathi system like an avenging angel. The home world hung before them, a massive sphere covered in the same organic structures they had seen on other conquered worlds, but larger, older, more complex. This was where the Karathi had originated, where their civilization had first learned to consume other species. The defenders were caught completely off guard. Thousands of Karathi ships scrambled to respond, but they were facing an enemy that had learned their tactics over months of bitter fighting. The Allied fleet moved with practiced precision, their formations designed by human tactical minds and executed with alien technology. Elena led her task force straight into the heart of the defenses, her ship's experimental shields deflecting, weapons that should have vaporized her. Around her, ships from dozens of species fought with a desperation born of hope. They all knew this was their one chance. Strike teams, this is Admiral Thompson. Jake's voice cut through the battle chatter. The door is open. Go, go, go! 12 small ships broke from the main fleet, diving toward the planet's surface faster than anything had a right to move. Karathi interceptors tried to stop them, but human ingenuity had found an answer for that too. Each strike ship was equipped with an AI that had learned to think like a human pilot, unpredictable and desperate. One by one, the strike ships vanished into the planet's atmosphere. The Karathi defense grid tried to track them, but they moved like ghosts, using techniques that made no tactical sense but somehow worked anyway. Then the first explosion came. Deep beneath the planet's surface, antimatter met matter in a reaction that lit up the entire system. The second followed, then the third. The planet's core began to destabilize, its artificial structures collapsing as the fundamental forces that held it together were torn apart. Zara Lynn watched in amazement as the Karathi home world began to die. "Impossible," she whispered. "No one has ever—" "Welcome to humanity," Jake said grimly. "We specialize in the impossible." The retreat was chaos. The remaining Karathi ships fought with the fury of the doomed, but their coordination was breaking down as their home world collapsed. Behind them, the Allied fleet pulled back, carrying news that would reshape the galaxy. As the UES Devastator jumped back into hyperspace, Jake received a message from Earth. The main Karathi fleet had turned around, rushing back to defend their home world. Humanity was safe. But more than that, the galaxy had changed. Humanity had done what no species thought possible. They had defeated the undefeatable, and in doing so, they had become something new. The Terran Empire was no longer just a desperate alliance. It was a force that would reshape the stars themselves. Standing on his bridge, Admiral Jake Thompson smiled. His daughter back on Earth would be proud. Humanity had made them sorry indeed.